There is no way. I have no idea how they did this. You see, I've always fancied myself a knife nerd, and when I heard what Magpul was saying, my first thought is that there was no way. Magpul has released a line of knives made with metal injection molded blades. Injection molding is akin to casting, and blacksmiths have known for millennia that casting is no way to make a blade. But having done a little bit of research, it looks like Magpul might have pulled off something special. And when a company like Magpul shows up at Blade HQ, it's time to question everything. And question we did. And the first question I had was, guys, tell me, who is Magpul? How'd you come to be, and what do you guys do?
Yeah, so Magpul is the largest firearms accessory manufacturer in the world. So we make firearms accessory parts for all the major manufacturers in the world. So that's kind of where we started with a mag pull, which is an accessory put on the bottom of a magazine so you could pull the magazine out faster in combat. And that evolved into several iterations of the magazine that we now call the PMag or the Gen 3.
Magpul was founded by a Marine named Richard Fitzpatrick, and he solved a problem that every combat veteran knows well. In the heat of battle, it can be hard to pull your magazine out of your chest rig. To make this easier, many soldiers would use duct tape and paracord to make a loop at the base of their magazine that was easier to grab. But Richard made a piece of flexible plastic that would grab your magazine and just be a better solution all around. It was immediately a smash hit, and ever since, Magpul has been making great products to solve real problems for over 25 years. One of their founding principles was make what they need, not what they want. And that applies to more than just firearms. That was only the beginning.
And a common misconception is that the people of Magpul only shoot guns. We only engage in firearms or sporting activities, but the reality is the entire employee base, they do backcountry hunting, they do overlanding, we're all surfing, we're all alpine climbing, we're doing all of these adventurous things, and knives and other industries or other categories of products are integrated in what we do every day.
I think to that end, injection molded polymers in guns. When I think of that, I just think Magpul. Magpul brought that to the world.
Now I can hear what you're thinking. What even is injection molding? And I'm here to tell you. Injection molding is one of the most popular ways to manufacture plastics in the world today. And I'd bet the farm that you have a ton of injection molded stuff within arm's reach of you right now. The process works by first adding a bunch of little plastic pellets called feedstock to a hopper, which feeds into a heated auger that twists and melts the plastic and fills a chamber with it. And then the auger pushes forward and squirts all of that liquid plastic through a nozzle and into a mold. The mold separates and the part falls out. You ever wonder why so many plastic parts have these little divots with almost a sharp point in the middle? That is where the nozzle met the mold. Injection molding is awesome and can be used with a ton of different plastics, including some you knife folks are familiar with, like Ultim. But the magic doesn't stop there. With a few engineering workarounds, you can even injection mold metal. More on that later.
Like, how did you convince people that plastics are going to be good in the firearms industry?
A lot of trial and error.
Yeah, you had the USGI magazine, which was the metal magazine. It was the standard for all military units. The common misconception is that metal is more durable than molded plastic. And so Magpul knew as a company they had to overcome that. And that's what they did. And to know what has been tested, right, we created the same parameters for testing to reach those same kind of challenges. And that's what we kind of proved with that. And it's only gotten better, so.
And eventually, enough people took these to the range and to the battlefield, and they just kept on ticking. People were like, maybe I ought to get me one of these.
Yeah, and I think the proof is in the field testing and what's been put out. John and I both carried USGI magazines in combat, then we attached Magpuls to those magazines, and then we eventually moved to the PMag. And the durability, when you would drop them in the cold weather, when you would have feed issues, they all went away, right? When we eventually went to the PMag, and it eventually became the standard for the industry.
The amount of experience that our designers and engineers have in terms of designing for plastic injection molding. If you were going to go to our engineering department and look at how much experience they have, and it's not just all limited to firearms, they come from all different backgrounds, whether it's automotive, aerospace, medical, like they bring so many different lessons learned from different industries, and it all gets applied here. And so you have these backgrounds you wouldn't associate with firearms, but the fact of the matter is that those varying experiences really add up to something that's greater than the sum of their parts.
As you can see with Magpul in the building, Blade HQ is on the cutting edge of all things knives. If you want the latest and all things sharp and pointy, make sure you're subscribed down below. Back to the video.
So how did Magpul end up in the knife business at all?
Yeah, so this isn't really our first knife, I would say. We've been making knives for a while. This first prototype we have, this was the head of design. He just kind of took some PMAG prototypes that he had. In 2015, they had an employee build. So the head designer kind of built a bunch of scales and then put them on these Kershaw blades and gave them to all the employees. So that was kind of the next kind of threshold in the timeline. And then from there it was kind of a, hey, we should probably be making knives. That's what led to the rigger. So this is probably about 2017. We made these prototypes initially, and then once the prototypes were proved out, we went to the commercial market with them.
They sold out like that.
They
so
did.
Fast.
We were not expecting that. And what I think it proved to us is that Magpul has a consumer that's looking for a knife solution. It broke the website. It was something that most employees got a knife, right? And they were asking for more. And so I think what it showed to us is that we should probably be in the knife game. And that's kind of what led us to the next step.
Magpul is best known for their plastic injection molded products, but they've been using MIM or metal injection molding for a good while as well. Products like their popular flip-up sights, the M-Bus Pros, their barricade stop, and even the blades on this new and exciting line of knives use metal injection molding to allow economic manufacturing as well as extreme accuracy. The MIM process begins a lot like the plastic injection molding process with feedstock. However, this feedstock is special. It uses metal powders and resin instead of solid plastic. And as the auger heats it up and injects it, it finds itself into a mold and comes out just like a plastic part would. The parts fresh out of the mold, called green parts, are then moved to a debinding bath where solvents remove all of the resin. After debinding, the parts are very brittle, so they are moved to a sintering oven where they shrink and bind into one solid part. In addition, there is a step called hot isostatic pressure, which solidifies the part all the way through to 100% of theoretical density. After the HIP process, the part is basically indistinguishable from something that is machined, although no waste has been created because it was injection molded. Now, some of you extreme knife nerds out there may have noticed some similarities between the way MIM is done and the way our beloved powder steels are made. And believe me, we'll get to that. But for now, what's the big deal with MIM? Why should we care anyway?
The biggest thing is going to be features, the feature set, and in how we designed this knife, we were able to reduce the parts count compared to something like a crossbar lock, axis lock, those sorts of things. So we simplified the design. We have a new locking mechanism that we're rolling out with this knife. With the locks are also MIM, the pocket clip is MIM'd, and it's just, you're getting a lot of bang for your buck because the profile machined and just conventionally machined prototypes that we had cost us thousands of dollars to do, and it wasn't even in our actual material.
You kind of get a one-shot cost, and it's like, what can we include in the face of the blade, or can we add a feature to the blade that goes into the mold for free, right? Because you have to make that mold regardless. So if you can add something in now, why not do it? As opposed to traditional manufacturing, you want to add a secondary bevel, or you want to hog some material out, right? New bits, new plates, new machine, new something. So here it's like you have a one-stop shop, you need to put everything in, and so it's a very different design philosophy from the outset. So something that we've gone through with the DT stock, the Mo bipod, and everything else that Magpul's made.
So in conventional blade steels, the way it works is they are made in a foundry, and in powder steels, it's a powder that's put in a big canister, and then I think they use HIP as well, solidify the whole thing, and then they roll it. And the hot and cold rolling process is kind of similar to the forging process, where it helps refine the carbide structure and give you that blade performance that you know and expect, combined with good manufacturing and heat treatment techniques. But when you injection mold, you're not getting that. So how?
Well, it started out with, what steel do we want to roll out? And we settled on CPM's S35VN, which has been around a while. It's a proven performance, a solid steel. And we had to figure out, well, how do we get this from billet to something that we can MIM? So we met with one of our partners who does a lot of MIM work for us, and we just broached the question, like, is this a thing? Can we do it? And it piqued their interest, and so that started the R&D effort. And I think as soon as we had some test bars made for mechanical testing, it was like, okay, go.
Magpul kept iterating on the steel end process until they had functional MIMmed blades, but they weren't about to go to market with something that was untested. So they got in contact with CATRA, the Cutlery and Allied Trades Research Association, to really put their blades through their paces. Their tests are extremely scientific and form the basis of all of the ways we describe blade steels today. Their tests pushed these blades to the literal breaking point. And like Magpul, I was really excited to hear the results.
What we found from their metallurgical analysis matched what we had, what our partner had from their third-party testing, and like, hey, it looks like S35VN. I'm like, well, that's what we wanted it to be, so that's good. But the big kicker was when we tested edge retention, and what we found is that our steel was outperforming conventional billet with similar edge geometries, and performing just as well in edge impact test.
That's crazy, guys. I don't think you quite understand. Like, I looked at this document. I saw the microstructure. I saw the carbide sizes. I don't know how they've done it. This is witchcraft, guys. This shouldn't be possible.
It shouldn't, and I think we were skeptics. John was a skeptic just months before we got the stuff, and once the data came in, we tried to look at it as unbiased as we could, just to make sure that we were doing this correctly, right? Because we know the consumer, we know the knife world, we understand that it can be nerdy at times. And so that was John's goal from the outset, is like, we have to meet these standards if we have a product category, if we have a knife line. So it's Magpul's philosophy of like, if we're not making cool product that's disrupting the market, then we don't want to do it, you know? So I think it's the same with, let's figure out the PMag. Why can't we change the bipod? Why can't we change stocks, right? How do we integrate those systems? Coming up with an M-lock system that changes the Picatinny rail system. Like, all of those questions were annoying the establishment and asking people why they were doing that way and why can't we do it another way. So I think this is the same kind of blueprint that we've always followed. It's like, look at the industry. Is it stale? Is it doing the same thing? Is there a way to change it? So
Yeah, one of our core foundations is innovate or die. So we apply that to the knife world.
So where are people going to get this first? How can they get this tech in their hands now?
You'll be able to see this first in our Breslau, which is an EDC folder. We consider this to be the spiritual successor to the rigger knives in terms of a lot of familiar design lines. You can see that DNA, but we've also done a lot to improve the cutting performance in terms of blade geometry and the cross section. We've got a different mechanism, and it's a lot less expensive than the original rigger. So that's going to be the first knife of a bigger series.
Yeah, we have big plans for MIM. MIM allows a lot of different innovations, not just in the tactical space, but in outdoor, EDC, hunt, all of that stuff. So as we are product people, so we kind of live 12 to 18 months in the future. So as our products are releasing, John and I are already thinking about what's next, and we're working with the design and engineering team. And it's cool. It's only been 6 to 12 months since we've left that design, and it's already evolved into something else that we're really excited about. Yeah. So the future of MIM is bright.
If you had told me a month ago that Magpul, a company known for making gun parts, would be ushering in a new world of knife making, I would have called you crazy. In fact, when my manager told me just that, I called him crazy. But now I've seen the knives, I've held them in my hand, and somehow Magpul has got super steel performance out of a metal injection molded blade, and I find that very exciting. Magpul knives are coming soon, and it is Blade HQ's great honor to be the only retailer to carry them directly. We expect the first shipment to arrive in March 2025. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time.